Hello, hello, and welcome once again. J76NY here, and we are back in the kingdom of Rizia with King Romus Taurus. We are probably headed towards war with Palais. We have natural gas to blame for that. We are expanding our border fortifications and our naval base in preparation for that. We do have quite a bit to attend to. Now we've got meetings everywhere and reports to read. Scandal erupts as nobles discover laced wine. A major scandal is gripping the coastal town of Jails after a police raid on a local noble's villa discovered attendees feasting on wine laced with the illegal stimulant Ratspice. Sounds appealing. While family members of the arrested nobles accused the police of overstepping boundaries, the commander of the local police force responded by saying that they remain committed to the king's order of stamping out the use of and trade of illegal narcotics. Okay, there's that. Police drivers discover drug caches. So I guess this is all about drugs. In a large maritime sweep at the port of Celebes and surrounding shores, police divers have found several drug caches belonging to Wezek and Dirtian smugglers, bringing Agard Yishyash into the country. Ratspice and Yishyash. Fantastic. The discovery of the caches highlight the new and creative methods that are being used to smuggle narcotics into Rizia. Rizia has a drug problem. People like their highs. 3 drug addicts dead after police opened fire. Local community center offering safe drug consumption spaces for those addicted to illegal substances have been raided by officers of the Rizian police force as part of the ongoing national crackdown on narcotic use. Violence erupted as arrests were made, with one of the addicts pulling a makeshift gun on law enforcement officers. A makeshift gun. In the ongoing chaos, the police resorted to their sidearms to restore order, leaving 3 drug addicts dead and several others wounded. In total, 28 arrests were made, and the community center was closed down, which I am all for. If they really want to help, they should open a rehab clinic, not a safe place to get your fix. There we go. I think there's one more. I thought there was one more. I guess there's not. We have the House Delegation session, where we just have to, I guess, decide whether we're going to attend or not. Rizian People's Party leader Manus Sazan has invited the king to attend a session of the House of Delegates. He is slated to propose what he has called a landmark proposal regarding the rights of workers in Rizia. So I can go myself, or I can send Uncle Hugo. I'll go myself. Why not? Why not? And then we've got a call with Prime Minister Alvarez. Wonder what he wants. It had been a week since my meeting with Duke Reinhardt in Palais. The Alliance of Nations had accepted our request to arbitrate the ownership of the Arias gas field. Preliminary hearings were to begin soon. In the meantime, Lespian Prime Minister Patricio Alvarez had contacted Lorento, asking to speak with me. I was spending the week at my palace in Monkeys. Lorento visited to brief me ahead of the phone call. He stepped in front of my desk and bowed. Good afternoon, Your Majesty. He is my Counselor of Foreign Affairs, my Secretary of State, basically. I trust you are well, Mr. Esquibble. I highly doubt he is well, given everything that's going on. No time for small talk. Prime Minister Alvarez will be calling soon. I won't know if it's a good afternoon or not until I found out what the lesbians want from me. Now, if you are unfamiliar with Suzerain's style of gameplay, you're offered choices. You make your choice, kind of in the choose-your-own-adventure fashion, and these choices do have long-reaching consequences. Even how you treat people, they affect how they treat you in turn. I won't know if it's good or not until I talk to the lesbians. Forgive the inappropriate greeting. No biggie, dude. What questions did you have about Mr. Alvarez? What does he want? I've heard he's an alcoholic. Well, you can't be happy the AN arbitration is delaying Lespia's access to the Aureus gas field. Maybe we could cut a deal with him and bump the Palais clowns right out of there. Get Axel out of the picture and Lespia on our side. That might not be a bad thought. His country's energy demands, my God, have skyrocketed since joining ATO. I've heard rumors of massive new infrastructure investments, naturally involving the Prime Minister's own construction company, Alvarez Industries. I heard he's an alcoholic. Rare is the world leader who doesn't enjoy a little drink on the job, or a big one. But no, Alvarez has apparently acknowledged his problem and entered a rehabilitation program. Okay, he's as sober as an archpriestess. For now. How trustworthy is he? Considering the only reason he entered politics was to avoid going to jail? No charges successfully been leveled against him, but in my opinion, he can only be trusted to protect his own best interest. I will keep that in mind. Did my father ever talk to him? No, His Majesty Valero died mere months after Alvarez won the 1949 election. He must have sent his obligatory congratulations. In private, though, he referred to the young man as the Viper in a diaper. All right, let's talk to the Viper in a diaper. Okay. An assistant brought in the blue telephone that was used for calls with heads of state. Good afternoon, King Romus. This is the Viper in a diaper. Patricio Alvarez. Oh yeah, here we go. This is His Majesty Romus Torres, ruler of Rizia, commander of the Royal Rizian Armed Forces, Duke of Valenquois, and protector of the Resnet Empire. There we go. Quite the mouthful. May your reign be as long as your titles. You must have some idea why I'm calling. I honestly don't have a clue. I could bullshit him. Something to do with the gas fields, I'm assuming. I heard him sigh on the other end of the line. Here I am, about to land the gas deal of a lifetime. Then my business partner calls me up and tells me we have to wait for AN arbitration. Yeah. Things have to be legal, you know. This is a civilized world we live in. You really thought Rizia would cede the field without a fight? You're lucky it's only that. Duke Reinhardt wanted me to buy the field out from under you. That would fit in with my, the thought I had earlier. I'm only observing protocol, Mr. Alvarez. You would do the same if I laid claim to one of Rizia's, oh my God, Lespia's resources. 3 times took me to say that name, and it's right there. I'm gonna throw Reinhardt under the bus. Did he? Interesting. Well, as of my last conversation with him, he is determined to fight for what rightly belongs to Pales. And frankly, with Lespia on his side, he has an unimpeachable case. You're bluffing. The AN will have no choice but to side with Rizia. I understand I might lose, but I'm not going to back down on this. If you want Rizia to give up its claim on the field, you're going to have to present one hell of a counter offer. I feel confident to a certain extent that we are going to win in the legal square. But I'm going to try and screw Axel, so let's see what he has to offer. As it happens, I do have a proposition that might interest you. No promises, but I'm listening. I've been following the situation in zeal. It seems to me you could use help with this debacle. Thanks, but I have everything under control. I'm growing concerned about the timely return of the region, yes. As you should be. He's a slippery man, Smolak. You won't get your territory back unless you tighten your grip on him. And how do you propose we do that? You catch flies with honey, not vinegar. I'm not going to risk inflaming hostilities with Wayland. You offering to intervene? Of course, Lespia can't do that, but we can provide some assistance from the sidelines. By speaking up on your behalf at the upcoming AN session, for example. That's it. You expect us to give up our claim on the gas field for that little? You have to make a very persuasive case for us. Unfortunately, Rizia needs natural gas more than we need help with Wayland. Well, I'm a charming man. Everyone says so. Actually, I'll be extra generous. Cede the Aureus gas field to Pales? No. And in addition to the assistance I promised, we'll sell you 1/4 of the exploration rights. 1/4. That's an insult. Those rights are ours to begin with. You wouldn't be bargaining if you thought you had an airtight case. Trying to make sure we both get something out of this, Your Majesty. Well, I'm trying to make sure I get my fair share, Dick. A certain social club I'm in has taught me the importance of service to others. You may be sober, but I don't believe for a second that you've changed your ways. You're not the boogeyman my counselors made you out to be. I'm not going to say that. You don't have to believe me. All I have to do is say yes. Thanks for your offer. I'll remember your patronizing tone when I crush you in Pales in court. I want to see how the arbitration plays out. Fair enough. I'll see you in Kroot. And I'll see you in hell! Looking forward to it, bud. I sat there for a while wondering what I had gotten myself into. I hadn't gotten myself into anything. Were Duke Reinhardt and Prime Minister Alvarez right? Was I doomed to lose this battle? Well, there's something over here, so... there's a significant reduction in trade from race nations. Visiting the House of Delegates, evening conversation with my mom. See what this is all about here. Recent reports indicate a troubling decrease in trade volume with Grace, a key economic organization. This downturn is impacting the Treasury, necessitating immediate and effective response. Options include renegotiating trade agreements, exploring alternate trade partners, or investing in domestic industries to reduce reliance. It's all, no matter what I do, it's -1 on the budget, which we don't have, which kind of sucks. But I could always sell some stuff, I guess. Rizia will find new and better alternatives. Oh my, look at all this. And we got a lot of news to read. Grace is concerned with the recent downturn in trade with the Kingdom of Rizia. We are actively seeking to identify the cause of this decline and are dedicating to implementing measures to rectify the situation. Our aim is to restore and elevate our trade relations with Rizia, reinforcing our commitment to economic cooperation and mutual success. Okay. Rumburg tries to reassure Grace members. The Rumburgian Crown sent out a communique to all Grace members assuring that the recent decrease in trade volume is temporary, and that member states of the organization should not worry and continue to trade as usual. I didn't really have a choice in the matter there. Let's read the newspaper, I guess. Rizia embraces arbitration in quest for just resolution of gas dispute. In a landmark move demonstrating its unwavering commitment to peace and adherence to international law, the Kingdom of Rizia has officially entered into AN arbitration over the contested Aureus gas field, which it shares a claim over with the Grand Duchy of Palais. The arbitration process set to unfold over the coming months will witness both nations presenting their respective arguments. Rizia, armed with strong historical, geographical, and legal evidence, is optimistic about its position. Analysts speculate that an outcome favoring Rizia could usher in a period of economic prosperity and energy stability for the kingdom. In the coming months, as we prepare to present our case on the international stage, we hope for wisdom, fairness, and justice to prevail. OMEC reports decline in East Mercopan economic integration. A worrying report indicating a 3.5% decline in trade volumes across East Mercopa, originally projecting a 4% growth in the regional trade. OMEC's revised figures now reflect the tangible effects of disrupted supply lines and geopolitical instability. With East Mercopa's economic integration rate slowing to a mere 1.2%, down from 2.5% growth seen last year, OMEC analysts underscore the heightened challenge that regional economies face as they navigate through a landscape marked by uncertainty and fluctuating economic alliances. Arcasia extends aid to impoverished free cities. Responding to a plea from Divine Speaker Andre, Arcasia has embarked on a foreign aid mission to the economically beleaguered Holy Federation of Free Cities, earmarking substantial resources for food and security. Okay. The upcoming session of the Alliance of Nations is setting an unprecedented course by dedicating a day's agenda exclusively to the issue of the 6 countries of South Mercopa. The dedicated focus represents a significant opportunity for the international community to engage with the region's unique challenges and potentials. Scheduled for later this month, the session underscores the growing recognition of South Mercopa's strategic importance and its increasingly central role in global geopolitical dynamics, particularly thanks to its wealth of natural resources such as gold, oil, and gas. At the same time, AN President Nines hopes to diffuse the tension that have been simmering between the nations of Rizia, Wayland, Pales, Lespia, Morelia, and Dirtia. Most of it due to us. Except for the Wayland thing. That's Smolak, he's a douchebag. The AN session will provide a crucial platform for multilateral dialogue and conflict resolution. Alright. Here we go. So, should we meet with the mom or visit the House of Delegates? I wonder which one goes first. We'll visit the House of Delegates first. I walked down the palm tree-lined path that connected Palais Resna to the nearby House of Delegates. In contrast to the ornate palace, the house was essentially a plain concrete box. Its stripped-down appearance reflected its hurried construction. The only adornment was a phrase chiseled above the entrance, Ex Populat Rizadi, to the Rizian people. I made my way down the hall to the meeting room. Hugo rose to greet me as I entered the empty chamber. We took our seats atop the raised wooden platform in the center of the room. Directly below the platform were two podiums, one for each speaker. Wooden benches for the delegates were arranged in a circle around us. Welcome, Your Majesty. Good morning, Your Grace. The delegates will be on their best behavior with you here today. The Suzerain boy might even keep his speeches to under a half hour. Joke all you want, but it's about time someone listened to that kid. Based on what I saw in Celebes, I doubt it. But he gave a pretty abrupt speech in Celebes. That's the only one that's not really inflammatory, so his speech there seemed to have done a number on your daughter. Rebuilding relations with House Suzerain is a sound strategy, but we mustn't allow them to get too close to the throne. I have a plan, both for my daughter and myself, so I'm looking at a unified Rizia through love and marriage. We'll see how that plays out. The clock struck 10 and the delegates filed in. Each wore a satin sash in the traditional color of his or her province. Red for Rizia Imperii, blue for Monquise, yellow for Cardes Monteclar, and green for Brennus. Next came the speakers. House leader Daria de Rava walked out in a well-tailored crimson suit. She had a brisk gait and an impeccable posture. The other delegates practically held their breath as they waited for her to take her place. How did she land this job? She performed superbly as the head of the Provincial Council of Rizia Imperii. It's now her third term as Speaker. I do not believe she intends to vacate that position. I noted the approving tone in his voice as he spoke of her. Next came Manus Suzerain. Clad in a black suit with a forest green silk tie, he waved to his fellow delegates, then to me. I'm not going to wave back. Daria picked up a golden bell and rang at once. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to call this meeting of the House of Delegates to order. Today we are humbled by the presence of His Majesty King Romus. Long may he reign. A few cries of long may he reign echoed among the delegates, particularly those in red and blue sashes. Say that louder. I'm here to serve you, esteemed delegates. I look forward to your recommendation. It's an honor to be here, Madam Speaker. She smiled and continued. The Rizian People's Party has prepared a proposal that Mr. Suzerain will submit before the delegates and His Majesty. The delegates will vote on whether to accept or reject it, but this is a non-binding recommendation. The ultimate authority rests with the King and the Royal Council. She flipped open the binder. Today's session is regarding the Rizian Workers' Protection Act. Mr. Suzerain, would you like to explain more? Gladly, Madam Speaker. The past 2 decades have seen a marked increase in workplace accidents, particularly in the sectors of mining and manufacturing. I did promise the ginger that I wouldn't get involved in this. See if I can hold true to that. The experts I've consulted with have pinpointed several factors responsible for the rise, chief among them a shortage of skilled labor, a growing pressure from our primary trading partner. Simply put, our corporations have been cutting corners at the expense of human health and safety. Our industry's continued reliance on guest workers who are paid and trained less than their native Rizian counterparts is exacerbating the problem. Now, a cross-industry coalition of employees and guest workers have bravely approached the Rizian People's Party with a list of requests to convey to our fellow delegates as well as His Majesty. Among these are mandatory workplace safety training, upgraded protective equipment, benefits for those injured on the job, and regular site inspections by state authorities, none of which are really a bad idea. And, of course, financial penalties for corporations that fail to meet these requirements. Madam Speaker, Your Majesty, surely you agree on the urgency of this proposition. Rizia's great industries will not flourish as long as our workers are suffering. I looked at Hugo. But Rusty was right, as miners found a way to take their grievances to me. How does he expect us to pay for all this? Hard to believe we had none of these measures in place before now. How does he expect us to pay for all this, since we have no budget? This is why I never brought these meetings to your attention before. The proposals are impractical at best and ruinous at worst. I suddenly realized the hall had gone quiet. Shall I continue? I guess we were talking very kind of loud. I'd like to know how Rizia is supposed to pay for all this. It would be paid for in equal measure by the government and the corporations in question. Assuming the upcoming arbitration go our way, the Aureus gas field is expected to generate considerable revenue for Rizia, and in the end, this is a small price to pay for improving thousands of lives. Besides, a healthy worker is a productive worker. This small investment will pay off tenfold in the long term, he might be right, for us and for our economy. Daria sharply knocked on her podium. All eyes turned to her. Forgive me, Your Majesty, but I cannot let my opponent continue with these lies. Manus reluctantly took a step back. Of course, my party believes that worker safety is paramount, but the regulations that have been suggested today amount to overkill. It is up to individual corporations to take responsibility for reducing accidents. Shifting that responsibility to the government will do nothing to protect those at risk. It will, however, stifle our country's economic growth and decrease our viability in the global arena. If our businesses are to remain competitive, it is wiser to yawn in the face of a boring-ass meeting. It is wiser to incentivize good safety practices than to punish their absence. Not a bad idea either. Must object, Madam Speaker. Companies such as Rizian Royal Gold and Rizian Oil and Gas will never voluntarily undertake the measures we're describing. My point stands. With tensions rising in both our north and south, we simply cannot afford an extravagance of the type Mr. Cezanne is proposing. Our focus should be on achieving better diplomatic outcomes with our neighbors, not meddling in the affairs of our corporations. From near the front of the door came the sound of a single person applauding. Oh, Jesus. The ginger. In case you were wondering, that's who that is. I looked towards the source. Rusty was leaning against the wall, dressed in his usual plaid, like a farmer. He nodded to me as he kept clapping. I turned towards Hugo again. Look, your favorite person is here. Who let him in? That's a good question. I mean, this is government business. Hugo stared in Rusty's direction, expressionless. Okay, unfortunately, these sessions are open to the public, I guess. We cannot ask him to leave without reason. In fact, his presence could be useful in pressuring the Cezanne boy to stand down with his demands. Rusty had stopped clapping now. He was scrutinizing me closely, a gleam in his eye. How nice of you to join us, Mr. Montoro. Do you have any words on the topic at hand? I bet he does. Name's Rusty. As a matter of fact, I do. Rusty ambled down the aisle in the chamber. He came to a stop between the two speaker podiums. Now, I won't take up much of your time. The Baroness summed some things up pretty nicely. His Majesty here has also had the privilege of hearing my personal thoughts on the subject. He looked at me and winked. He was very receptive to my ideas at the time, but he might have forgotten a key point or two. Now, the Rizian Standard Dictionary defines gold as yellow precious metal used in jewelry and to guarantee the value of currency. There will be no bloviating in these chambers, Rusty. Let him talk. Whoops. But in Rizia, it's so much more than that. Commoners who've never even touched ducat still feel proud to live on shores of gold, as we sing. But our shores would never have been golden in the first place If our monarchs had listened to the naysayers, like Mr. Sazon here, I do apologize for the constant yawning. Not entirely sure why. Middle of the day, like 2 in the afternoon, shouldn't be yawning. Your Majesty, your predecessor knew that there can be no prosperity without hard work. Our grit and determination today fills the nation's coffers tomorrow. But where does that grit go when the government's got our hands tied? How can we function as a company when you folks don't trust us to take care of our own people? If I may ask, sir, how exactly would our proposal tie your hands? What does the country stand to lose? Don't play dumb, kid. Implementing all your suggestions would cost us and you millions. You'd have no choice but to shift more of your production from Rizia to the international trade zone. So changing our standards within the country will lead to more workers being exploited outside it. We can't rely on the trade zone as a stable source of revenue, not with the nationalization talk that's been happening. That's not really a bad statement to make. You see, Mr. Sazon, how bad will it look from the outside if no Rizian gold comes from Rizia anymore? We'll do whatever we have to. I just don't want a batch of disgruntled workers on our hands. All right, well, I mean, there is a decline in trade, so we can't really rely on that. Exactly my point, Your Majesty. Now is not the time to start changing how things are done in the gold industry. When is the time, then? When workers finally decide they've had enough? Your Majesty, Mr. Montoro could easily afford the measures I'm suggesting if he and his fellow executives forwent a fraction of their salary. Rusty bust out laughing. Excuse me? You're sitting on a fortune just because you happen to have the right last name, and you want me to give up the money that I worked for? He's not wrong, Mr. Sazon. We can't ask Rizian Royal Gold to make financial sacrifices that we nobles are not willing to make ourselves. And your gold-tilled swimming pool. Please ignore the opposition leader. Nobody is asking anyone to give up their money. If you want to stay in this room, you'll watch your attitude. I could go that way because he is talking to a noble. But he does have a good point. We'll have to shelve that topic for a later discussion. Your Majesty, it's completely out of the purview of today's session. Mr. Montoro, would you and Rizia's other business owners be willing to undergo voluntary measures to increase workplace safety in lieu of the drastic action Mr. Sazon is proposing? Rusty grinned toothily. Of course we would. Yeah, exactly. It's a great idea, guys. Just leave it up to me. Come to think of it, though, I wouldn't presume to spink up for the other guys. I'm the only one who cared enough to show up today, right? So here's another thought. You regulate factories and energy plants however you want, but maybe, just maybe, you think about making an exception for old Rusty. He winked at me again. Manus drew a hand across his brow. We can't make any exceptions. The malfeasance of Rizian Royal Gold was what inspired this proposal in the first place. Giving some of the workers what they want might divide them enough to head off organized dissent, though, right? I'm not going to do that. It's either all or nothing. Your proposal was never going to be accepted in its entirety, Mr. Sazon. Compromise is part of the political process. I've witnessed Mr. Montoro's cavalier attitude towards employee safety. If any company needs to be regulated as Rizia Royal Gold. The same arguments Rusty has made apply to everyone else. It doesn't make sense to regulate some industries and not the others. Daria pursed her lips. Gold is indeed a special commodity in Rizia, but we can't afford our other industries to fall behind either. Hugo calmly spoke up. The time for a vote is drawing close. To be clear, Mr. Suzerain, you do not wish to amend your proposal to take into account Mr. Montoro's comments? I do not, Your Grace. Then you have the floor, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Your Grace. As a reminder to you and His Majesty, this vote serves as a non-binding recommendation. The King and his council may agree or disagree at will. All those in favor of RPP's worker safety proposal raise their hands. About a quarter of the delegates, mostly those with green sashes, put a hand in the air. Those in favor of encouraging companies to develop and enforce their own safety protocols on a voluntary basis. The rest of the delegates, an overwhelming majority, raised their hand. Rusty smiled triumphantly. The delegates have an official recommendation. Rather than introduce sweeping and expensive labor reforms, Rizia should entrust the matter to of safety to its business owners. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The final decision is now in the hand of His Majesty King Romus. Will you accept or overrule the delegate's recommendation? Have you said all you want to say, Mr. Suzerain? I've stated my case, Your Majesty, but I will say this. This proposal would fail without you in this room. It's going to fail anyway. So, I mean, it's nice of you to say, but I'm not really exactly on your side. I'd like to believe you joined us for a reason. The majority of delegates in this room support royal interests, not those of the subjects they claim to represent. As long as that is true, it is the King's responsibility to see past the lies and make the decision that best serves ordinary citizens. Thank you for listening. Here's what I've decided. Everyone in the room went silent as they waited for my next words. I side with the delegate majority. Workplace safety proposal from the Rizian People's Party shall not be undertaken. Oh, look, I'm shooting it down either way. It's just a more diplomatic version of it. Our treasury is strained enough as it is. While I sympathize with the Rizian People's Party, I cannot implement this proposal. Damn straight, Your Majesty! My uncle gave Rusty a withering look. Silence, Mr. Montoro. Do not make His Majesty regret his decision. I didn't have much of a decision. I didn't have any options. It's either no or no nicely. Madam Speaker, let the record show that the King is aligned with the House of Majority. Noted, Your Grace. Daria made a note in her binder, then looked up at me, slightly smiling. Once again, I thank His Majesty for blessing us with his presence today, and Duke Taurus for presiding over the session. In honor as usual, Madam Speaker. My fellow delegates and esteemed guests, this meeting is now adjourned. Any follow-up questions will be addressed in future sittings. She rang the bell. Oh, ding-a-ling. As my guards escorted me towards the exit, I noticed Rusty still standing in the hall with his arms folded. Man of my word, right? I should have just said you're welcome. And I'm a man of mine, Your Majesty. You reached out to shake my hand. I suddenly felt the cool of metal against my palm. Oh, fuck. I withdrew my hand and took a closer look at the object he'd given me. My guys dug this up in the midst a while back. Consider it a token of my appreciation. That belongs to the crown anyway. Finders keepers, I always thought, but hey, it's yours now. As for the other matter we discussed back at my place, my lawyers will be in touch with the paperwork. Wish I could remember what that was. It's a problem with the way I record these videos. I do them in batches on the weekend because that's when I have the time to record. So I tend to go stretches of time without playing the game. I should probably start taking notes, but I think I've said that every playthrough and haven't started. So we'll just chalk it up to Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia. Much weed in his early days. He looks like he could really huff one down. Raising the stakes won't be free, naturally, but I'll give you a royal discount. See you soon. There we go. Collection item unlocked. Rucorous medallion. Discovered during preliminary exploration. That's cool. You got a little coin. Alright, so what do we have to do now? Rizia and Royal Gold stake change. In exchange for rejecting the Rizian People's Party proposal for gold mining regulations, Rusty Montoro of Rizian Royal Gold has given us the opportunity to raise or lower the royal stake in the company. Lower the stake to 15%. +2 budget, -1 budget per turn. +2 right now is not a bad idea. That way we can invest in some things. We got some royal decrees here. Workers' rights protection for all industries. Alright. Let's have a conversation with Queen Mother. It was the night before my trip to Crew for the Alliance of Nations meeting. I had just finished some last-minute preparations in my study. I carefully made my way back towards the palace's residential wing. It was later than I realized. The halls were dead silent, illuminated only by weak shafts of moonlight through the windows. Grand Wiseman Ignatius's quarters were on the ground floor. I saw a light coming out of a keyhole. I don't care. I'm not going to go peeping in his keyhole. Just before the stairs was the entrance to Vina's room. Through the door, I caught the faint strains of her voice. I will eavesdrop on my daughter, though. Oh, don't be so blue. Honestly, what were you expecting? No, I won't talk to him. He's in Crew the next few days, anyway. Yes, my love. We'll speak very soon. There was a clunk as she hung up the phone. I moved away from the door and kept walking. I reached the top floor. Across from the hall from my bedchamber, the Queen Mother's door was open. I looked in. My mother was smoking out on her balcony, her back turned towards me. Can't sleep. Run up behind her and scare the shit out of her. Hey! You looked startled for a moment, then smiled. Don't worry about me, darling. You should be resting yourself. All set for tomorrow? The Alliance of Nations won't know what hit them. Did Father tell you anything about these AN sessions? Not really. Diplomacy isn't exactly my forte. Did Dad talk about these AN sessions at all? Oh, you know, he was no diplomat. In fact, I'm not sure he even attended after the Zeal agreement. Poor Mr. Esquibble went alone in his stead. You are planning on addressing the elephant in the chamber, aren't you? Which elephant? There are so many. I wonder that you world leaders can squeeze in among all these pachyderms. But I was referring to Zeal. Or have you forgotten that the handover deadline is imminent? That's her home, by the way. She's from there. We need our land back, no matter what kind of announcement Victor Smolak has up his sleeve. I don't want a confrontation. Our countries are on the same side. How do you know he's going to make an announcement? My whisper networks aren't what they used to be, but wives still talk. You're not exactly impartial on Zeal. That's true. I've got a plan. You always do. Speaking of which, how is your lady friend proceeding with her investigation? My lady friend. She's not my lady friend, mother. It's like my son. My 9-year-old comes home from school, talks about a girl. Oh, is your girlfriend? She's not my girlfriend. The Pele situation has required her full attention. Don't try to keep her in line. The Azaros are getting too mixed up with Pele and what lost us Zeal in the first place. Don't worry, I'll stay on top of her. Pele is a real problem, Mother. The situation there could easily spiral out of control. Envision minding your own damn business for once. Duchess Azaro has a level head. She won't drag us into conflict without reason. I'll stay on top of her. She raised an eyebrow, as well she should. She stabbed her cigarette out on the balcony railing and sighed. Well, it's about time I get some rest. I want to talk about Vina. Who's she talking to on the phone? Would it be crazy if I married her off to Rico? I'm not marrying her off to her cousin. Is she seeing someone? That isn't the sort of information a young lady shares with her grandmother. Of course, I have heard the same rumors you have. What rumors? Dear, do you really think one dance in Celebes would be enough for those two? She flicked a bit of ash from her cigarette off the balcony. I'll tell you this much. The last thing you want to do is forbid her from seeing him. I hadn't planned on it. It's all part of my grand design. I want them to be together. Hey, after everything the Sazons did to you, to us? You cast a sidelong glance at me. Royal marriages are a balancing act, my dear. You can satisfy the betrothed or the country, but almost never both. Almost. You were lucky for a while, Romus. This particular match would satisfy your daughter very much. It would also put House Sazon dangerously close to the throne. Right, but my heir is still my heir, no matter who she's married to. It's up to you whether Vina's happiness is worth it. The Sazons aren't as dangerous as you think. I'm looking to collaborate more closely with them. I'd be fine with it if it were true love, but I'm worried he's using her. I actually don't think that. He seems like a decent guy. I mean, his house, my house, not exactly the best history, but I mean, he was just a fetus when all that shit went down. You said yourself I shouldn't forbid her from seeing him. What other choice do I have? The way I see it, you could use the pairing to keep a close eye on the opposition. Assuming Vina trusts you enough to pass along information about her paramour's family. It's not a bad idea. I know what I had in mind anyway. Or there's the other thing you could do. You send the princess on a nice, relaxing trip abroad. Nothing cures lovesickness like a change of scenery. A diplomatic mission, perhaps? Distract Vina and improve our international standing in one go. He's been cramping my style on the council. Well, she's a valuable member of my council. I'm not ready to let go of her. She's the last Tidalina I have left. You could always invite her high and mighty aunt for a more scintillating chat over putrid Rumburgian tea. She yawned theatrically. And with that, it's time to turn in. Don't worry about Vina. I know what to do. You're her father and the king. You surely know best. I wished her good night and left the room. I heard her light click off. I returned to my quarters to see Titus take his post outside my door. I wonder how long he'd been shadowing me for. In my room, Pavel had already packed my suitcase and turned the bed down. I climbed into bed, but was too distracted by thoughts of the day ahead to sleep. Oh, this is going to be a good episode. I can tell this next one's going to be real fun. Bad living standards. The living standards for the average Rizian has declined sharply. Well, that sucks. What else? RRG state owns 15%. All right. What do we have here? Big ol' Titan's Goblin trait. Read it if you want. I'm going to call this episode to a close right here. I'm really looking forward to the next episode. I actually, unfortunately, don't have the time to record it right now, but I'm going to get to it pretty quick because I want to see how this arbitration plays out. I'm hoping it goes our way. I'm going to record this next episode as soon as I possibly can because, like, I'm fiending to find out. And I'm loving this game, so if you are too, hit the like button. That'll help the video, channel, series, all that good stuff with the YouTube algorithm. If you have any thoughts, tips, or advice, leave those in the comment section below. If you want to follow along as we go through the 50s in Rizia, hit the subscribe, and we'll see this through till the end together. J76NY saying thank you very much for watching and have yourself a very good day.